Welcome back. If you had actually gone through lecture 1, lecture 2 was going to be even more interesting, but from a very different point of view. This is informing decisions using spreadsheets. Lecture 2, I am Bill Foote. We're going to be pricing a pie today. The whole story of the pie is in the very first chapters of the Informing Decisions book, and I urge you to look that up. We're not going to create a beast of a picture like the one up in the upper left-hand corner, but yeah, something similar, actually something very useful, called an interactive dashboard. Now we're gonna move back and forth between how to and what if. We don't ask or even build capabilities to ask what if. A lot of what we're going to do will be a waste of time to any decision maker. We always should keep that in the forefront here. So as we move forward, let's see if I can get this thing to go forward. There we go. We're moving into the first part of 3. The parts are spreadsheet engineering, part 1, as you can see here. Part 2 is optimization. Optimization, my lawyers always would tell me on an engagement, we don't use the word optimal. Yes, because it's the best of all worlds ever, forever and ever, which we actually don't produce here on Earth, never have. But we approximate it. So we use other things like leading, aspirational, and so on. Yeah. But in math, if we see a curve and we see the top of the curve, we say an optimum. So, anyways, careful of the terminology. But in this very first part, and there's a third part called simulation, which is really probably the most important part of the course, but it presupposes the other 2 parts, optimization and spreadsheet engineering that we're doing. We're going to be designing models using a technique called influence diagrams. This has been brought into the fine art of process engineering and process analytics. So, interesting area. We're going to attempt to use good spreadsheet practice, of course. We're going to be using all sorts of techniques, named ranges, indirect, index match, some product. We're also going to use another term, another function feature, 2 features out of Excel. One is line est, and we'll go through that. Not in this, I'll introduce it to you here, but there are videos on each one of these in the YouTube channel. And data table, our first foray into simulation, deterministic simulation. Okay, and we're going to go back and forth with that because that allows us to ask or begin to ask what if questions. Now, again, if we're not asking what if questions, we're being consistent with a very important piece of data. All decision makers change their minds. Absolutely. I do. I'm a decision maker, change my mind all the time until I nail it down and make the decision. But up to that point, it behooves me to change. Okay, what would happen if? There's a whole area of causal inference involved with that. Judith Pearl, David Rubin, there's a whole bunch of folks. It's the lawyers. But if it weren't for the wind, it'd be nice and warm out. Okay, it's that kind of an idea applied to complex decision making. We will also later on use VBA, even in this spreadsheet. I'm going to show you a little technique there, which I hope could be very helpful. Something to speed the tables along. Okay, that's in the book as well. But fundamentally, we're going to do something called grid approximation. That's going to be our basic simulation technique here. We're going to use that also in the simulation chapters, grids are really important. It's how we take something continuous and discretize it, but it allows us to consume it easily. Also, to put it into this format, spreadsheets are basically digital. Okay, even though we might continue with functions in it mathematically, but fundamentally they're just digital. And then we're going to do some plotting in a simple dashboard, and kind of what you see here. Let me see if I can move this thing too much. Yeah, there we go. It's time we face reality, my friends. We're not exactly rocket scientists. There we go. Gary Larson, engineer, PG&E for years. That kind of expresses a lot of what I do. We have a great plan, but it doesn't always turn out that way. And guess what? We're not geniuses. No, 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 no. There are a few out there that consider themselves geniuses, and some of whom we look up to as geniuses. But frankly speaking, their rockets don't always fly the first time either, if at all. And if you know who I mean. And that's the process, though. That's the process. So let me get this thing out of the way again. There we go. Rocket science today. There we go. Let's see. We're going to ask 4 questions again. We're always going to start with 4 questions. And we're talking with Madame Tortiere, who I forgot the accent aigu there on the E, the first E. Uh, uh, Building a vegan pie empire. Now there's an actual company that is doing this, and it's been recently funded, I think last year, by venture capitalists. I think it's Clive in the UK. Check it out, Clive, Clive, and they make pies. No, when I was living in Britain, I ate a lot of pie. Yeah, and drank a lot of beer and gained a lot of weight. Came back to the U.S. and got okay again, but love pie. And we're making vegan pies here, savory and sweet, by the way. And pies have basic ingredients, crust and filling, period. And there are sub ingredients, of course. There's a production process. We'll look at that in a few minutes. But we're going to start with the end. We need enough capital to fund a future. And so influence will matter. Capital is important. Yes, wealth is important, not in and of itself at all. Well, that's my ethical stance. However, we have to fund current operations. We have to fund possibilities and eventually plausibilities of loss or inability to work into a market where we all of a sudden discover an unmet need that we should be meeting. So there's going to be a lot of details about cost and demand. We're going to get back to decision value and choice and ask the question, how sensitive are we? Okay. Who are the usual suspects? We tend to frame decisions again as alternatives. Remember that. So these are not alternatives. We're going to price. Most of these are going to be against the business as usual alternative. Okay. But, when we get to pricing, we might want to gouge a little bit. Not legally, ever. Never, never. But, we've got to be careful about that. Might lose the market. Somebody else might undercut you, right? Production timing is extremely important, as well as sizing. Lot sizing. We're going to be getting into all those decisions. Customer service is key. Done, period. Absolutely. And we'll have a little model for that, just to wet the whistle, so to speak. Self-insurance, risk analysis and risk management ends up in the silo called insurance. But it shouldn't be so siloed. It should be something across, like fraud, for example. We have multiple lines of defense, and they start with the individual being moral, fundamentally. And we always have to write our own journal entries, right? That's how it works. And then have multiple lines above that from internal to external auditing. Then the law, of course. How do we choose? Well, we're back to the pricing decision and a for-cause analysis. So this is going to be analysis we're going to do throughout. Um, it's not yet highlighted in the book. It will be heavily highlighted in the book. I'm continue to write that, and you will see that once you purchase the book on Lean Pub, you will be able to get all the updates for free. If not, I'll send them to you. But you're customer for life, actually collaborator for life. We're always going to start with different causes and the key questions. For example, the first one, the formal cause, what is pricing? And here we get the definitions. I'm very high level at this point, just thinking it through. What is the value of a good, service, or resource in a transaction? What's the transaction? What's value? What's a good? These are questions you need to ask about anything you're doing around pricing. The value comes from an interesting source, a 1911 dissertation by Dietrich von Hildebrand. And he makes a difference between, a strong difference between the merely subjectively satisfying, which is what a lot of advertising goes for, and that's pure commoditization, versus the objectively important. What's objectively important to our customers? Objectively. Objectivity is an extremely important part of what we do. We live and breathe it all the time. But if we're just merely satisfying their whims, we will be as tails and dogs and what wags what. What's a good? Something we need or want. It's very simple. And provide needs and wants. Buying and selling is a transaction. So you can feature all of this inside of the analysis we're going to be producing. A material cause, what's in a decision? What's a bagel? All right. In this case, very good vegan food. Reduces cholesterol inside of me, so I only get one of those every now and then. Willingness to pay, gross to net price. You charge a gross price, but the actual price on the invoice may reflect several volume discounts, price discounts, markdowns. Okay, lots of different aspects to pricing. Very, very difficult process that SAP and Oracle, for example, pretty well automated, but not completely, and not to the satisfaction of most companies. It's something to think about. And return on investment, what's in it? Well, the return on investment, you've got to charge enough to get enough back to fund the current operations, but also if change occurs, how are you going to fund change? That's future, that's risk. Growth, future growth. Willingness to pay. What is that? Because we do this. We start with what's in it. We have a basic definition, and then we pull it apart like an onion. And we can go levels down, but time precludes that. Value to the customer, list price net of discounts, markdowns. That's not what is a good. Oh my gosh, gross to net. That's gross to net. I'll fix that someday. What is return on investment? Now, this is the economic value added approach from years ago. Stern Stewart built this into a whole EVA analysis that we all use. Economic profit at McKinsey. I use it at Deloitte an awful lot. Kind of use it at Ernst. Kind of put it into every analysis because I'm extremely concerned about the two aspects of what I'm trying to do. I have assets that need to be funded. I don't have funds that need assets. The other way around. Extremely important to me that this comes in. And the cost of capital is how much, if I have so much capital out there, my own, other investors, what is it worth? What is the return? Okay, got into that. Finally, not finally, we're almost at finally. Efficient cause, where did it come from? People, marketing, distribute, all sorts of places, hardware. It's all about people. Starts with people, ends with people. Probably the most important people are the customers, but other important people are your employees. Are you giving them a fair wage? If you're not, they're going to move. They should move if they can move. Okay, and it isn't just the wage; it's everything with it, wages and benefits. Yeah. Um, uh, are you working your people to the bone? They're going to burn out. They're going to leave. Just had we're in still in a pandemic. We're going to probably be in another pandemic soon. And healthcare workers are moving away. Why? Because they were worked in some cases to death. This is not the way to run anything. So keep the notion of relationship important when we're doing any kind of decision, and pricing's part of that. You want to meet people at a place that they can afford. Okay. In the case of Clyde's and other vegan companies, they're actually following World Health Organization guidelines and guidelines within their own countries about um, the health benefits of substituting uh, full vegan meals for animal-based meals, plant-based versus animal-based. Kind of interesting. Uh, Surprise, hopefully always happy. Reliability, service, loyalty, trust. Those are what we call hedonic uh, attributes, uh, quality that's often in a price. And finally, why are we doing this? I've got a kind of a view here where we're trying to provide high quality products, serve unmet needs, affordable price, less than or equal to the value to the consumer, and at the same time fairly compensates investors for risk. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. Nobody would want this as their mission statement, but I think everybody needs a mission statement like this. And then we get down to, again, peeling the onion. What is affordable? Price. What is less than or equal to the value to the consumer is really important. A price that exceeds the expectations of the customer. What is fairly compensating? Enough profit to fund the future. Okay, we're going to use all of these as guideposts in what we do next. Uh, Want to draw us back to, are we being are we just going to listen to the science? The model tells us everything. That's autos effa from Pythagoras. The model is the authority. I am the model. No, don't do that. Please don't do that. Use the model to ask what if of the authority, to challenge the authority, challenge the market, challenge yourself. That's the point. Fragments over the whole, Goethe over Bacon, Francis Bacon, that is, and certainly over Newton. They have radically different views. We're in the human sciences area, not in the physics area. Things don't always apply. Refraction of light is perceived. Yes, the sun is below the horizon, yet you see it rise. Oh my gosh. Okay, what are you going to do about that? Anyways, and beware curtailing the imaginative capacity as we go through this analysis. So situate yourself as if you're in front of a client and you're standing at a great big blackboard, whiteboard, whatever, and you're drawing pictures about what you want to do. Okay. Pictures are really, really important. They stimulate different parts of the brain and inspire us, especially when we elaborate. Okay. We're looking at very complex interactions, and read Goethe out there. Very interesting foil to everything that we actually call science right now. Okay. And the logic continues to emerge, and we're going to apply this logic again. So I'm reaching back into the last lecture, as you can see, and you'll see this overlap over and over again. Expand or crushing is what we did before. We did decision tree analysis. We made pictures, real options, and we're always asking what if. This is what we did before and what's in a decision again. Okay, two different paradigms. We're going to start filling in the details of either paradigm. How do we come up with outcomes in the first place? How do we come up with variations in outcomes and alternatives? Okay, so we're going to be kind of filling out what we did in the first lecture here. We will be simulating, not this heavy duty monster. This is going to be in uh, simulation portion of the course. And it's Monte Carlo. Yes. Stan Ulam. Yes. Look up ULAM, Stan. Great guy. Okay, but this is what we're going to be doing today. Farm to consumer. Got a bunch of farmers over here. I love the icons. All of these are from Creative Commons. So very, very, very helpful to people like me. Put me up here. Okay. In the end, we want to, this is actually from Clive. Clive, you're doing great. Hopefully this will help make people aware. They do have international sales, right? There probably should be a jet there. Okay, so really this is the supply chain. I used green. Actually, I didn't choose green. It came up automatically, but I'm glad it came up that way. Uh, Farmers, technology there, bundles of delicious food. And then there's the production line, not so delicious looking, huh? I suppose that's the big bake oven in the middle. Easy bake oven, yes. Lots of packaging. There's refrigeration involved, very expensive. And that's in the warehousing. There's all of these different pieces. Oh, inventory analysis. Yeah, it's all part. The backstory ends up being Madame Tortiere. Tortiere, by the way, is a pork pie. I think I might have mentioned that before, but it's a pork pie in Quebec, where half my family comes from. We eat it every year. We don't eat it anymore because not allowed to eat that. And it's, by the way, it's very filling. So we're actually uh, engineering a pie that tastes similar. Well, how does it taste similar? Very simple. Very simple. It's the spices. Yeah. Okay, good. So, I mean, pricing can be basically cost plus. That's what a lot of people do. And we're going to kind of follow a little bit of a cost plus relationship here. The cost plus gets mirrored only in one direction. There's another direction that cost plus has to um, reflect. And it's a matter of what cart, what horse. Okay. Cart before the horse. You can have a horse push a cart, definitely, and some of those poor animals do that. Uh, uh, but we do have to start here. And so we are going to start with this. But the supply chain at the end tells us about how willing we are to buy the product. Why would we bother to even look up the product to buy it? Okay. So we have those things. And fudge, a lot of people use fudge. Can you operationalize uh, the possibility of risk? And yes, we can. A lot of techniques for doing that. And those are those other ways. And here's where we begin. We have a model that looks like this. We already went through the four cause analysis and locate the four causes in it. This is mainly the efficient set of causes. But look, there's total profit. That's part of our final cause, not the entire final cause. And look at all the efficient causes in there. And then filling and dough and consumers material. Okay. Processing. We have a processing model. We have technology. You notice demand feeds all of those things and up to total cost. Why? Because demand tells the processing plant how much to process. What's not in this model, which we will deal with later, is inventory. Critical, absolutely critical. And a little squirrely there. Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, it becomes dynamic over time. We have not included time in this model yet. We will soon. Chapter 2, lecture 3. We will definitely do that. Okay, but we're going to begin with weekly profit. We're looking at input cost, output revenue, and we'll look where we locate the decision. So we're going to make that yellow. A lot of the rest of this is going to be green, and then we're going to have total profit blue. We're going to follow that color coding pretty consistently. So here's where we want to go. This is what we're going to be producing. And this is just an overview. The details here are all going to be in subsequent videos, a lot shorter than this one. But again, I wanted to give you a taste of what's going on soon. This is exciting, I hope. You have sidebars. You can change assumptions of filling cost per pie, total cost per pie, and thus change the fixed cost too. Sidebars, very, very helpful. Move those around. You will see this picture move. Where does the pie price come from? The pie price comes from a sensitivity analysis. Well, what? Where does the picture come from? A sensitivity analysis. Where does the rest of this come from? Look at the intercept slope. Yes, first year algebra, and then second year algebra with quadratics. Okay, how much does something change? Yes, and then we line it all up like the good cost accountants we are into total profit. Okay? And that's how that will work. And this is something consumable. Also, look at the bottom here. There are different tabs in this spreadsheet for different tasks, like the key questions that are being asked, the influence diagram you just saw, data, cost analysis, a demand analysis, profit analysis, which comes from sensitivity that this range of numbers comes from, and then something very, very important, setup. We'll see that at the end as well today. So here's the cost analysis. I'm going to keep this on the top as our guiding light. Profit to fund future growth in current operations, interactive dashboard to aid discussion, make it actually consumable for the decision maker. We're always exploring the trade-offs. Now that is what Mary Hirschfeld at Villanova University in her work on market economics. An economist, became a theologian, and she, Thomas Aquinas, and then before that Aristotle. It's a tradition that we're imparting here, and we're being asked to contemplate that tradition. But the contemplation doesn't work unless you share it. Okay. One of the things that she points out is, what are we trying to do in economics? Efficient causality. We're trying to see where something comes from and where it goes to, and what are the waves along the way. What are the stumbling blocks? Where are the gains? Where are the losses? The progress and the decline along the way. They're not the whole story. They're part of the story. Very important part of the story. A lot of how-to goes on in there, but if you play it right with the other causes, we can also ask lots of what ifs in Judah Pearl's The Book of Why. What if it weren't for the tsunami, the city of Athens wouldn't have been flooded? I mean, that's one of the most ancient ones. But the what if analysis is key. Notice this analysis goes from left to right. We want to end up on the right. There's a slight bend in the cost curve. What are we relating? The number of pies or volume produced. And we're scaling it, and we're doing it x squared. Yeah. Quadratic equations. I'll show you how to do this later in subsequent videos. We create an actual cost. And there's data that comes into this, a price of, volume versus cost. The actual cost and the number of pies. Okay, so this is the technology literally we're using, and it's very interesting that we can graph. I always use scatter plots almost exclusively with everything. Everything else is nice, but I can't do everything I want with everything else. Okay, except maybe some certain 2D plots. Very, very interesting. But this is done with an interpolation, which gives you the coefficients of the interpolation. You can see up top here, there is no intercept. Oh gosh, no intercept. And you can see R squared, which is a measure of what percent of the actual is predicted across the model. 98% versus 99%. I take the 99%. Yeah. We're basically just doing interpolation, but based upon inference, we can interpret the because we're saying cost squared imply if this then that volume produced, then we can predict volumes and costs. Okay. We can also run this the other way around. If volume produced, and where would that come from? See, I was just thinking pure cost model here. Where would that come from? If my goal is just cost, vertical axis, number of pies is the volume. I flipped that arrow around to make it volume produced implies cost. Then I'm allowing in the model for the entry of, well, where did I get volume from? I'm getting it from demand, aren't I? Okay, I'm allowing that. And if I store volume, I'm allowing inventory to come in. So I'm allowing the model to admit. That's important. So I think I'm going to switch that around. There we go. Linest is a great function. You can check it out. You can also use data analysis, and that's an add-in. Yeah, that's good. It's very good actually. But Linus does everything we need to do, and it's great for production. Visualize, there's a visualization. And we have to ask, is this a reasonable model? The R squared helps with that. So again, just giving an overview of how we're approaching things. On the left here, we have a single demand experiment. We change the price. Let's see what happens to our market. Do they if we lower the price, do they demand more? Yeah, apparently they do. And then we can build a line interpretation on it. Now, this is dangerous, the one experiment. Good idea, to be done frequently for different circumstances. You can't play with your markets too much. Okay, not a science experiment. It's a human decision-making experiment. Big difference. Natural science, biology, even psychology will have these problems, but chemistry doesn't, and math never does, because they're not taking into the fact that we're dealing with reflective human beings who can store information and ask what if, not taking that into account. So be careful of this. Also notice C13 there. Look at how I strapped that together in order to make that equation at C13. Okay. This is documentation. It's part of spreadsheet engineering. This is a single tab, a single module, if you will, for this. And here, yeah, I think price does influence demand, not the other way around. Okay. I think that arrow is correct. Previous arrow, I think it flipped. Same process, model using simple interpolation. And here's the simple interpolation provided courtesy of you see it on the plot, 4,000. Okay, so on. Negative 4,000. Downward sloping demand, as we know and love out of economics. Now, and we have an equation, and we have parameters now that can change with assumption changes. Here's the basic profit model. Demand. There we go. That's the correct arrow. Demand introduces cost. So when I said this over here, I said, oh, we need to change that idea. Why? Because we're having a discussion. Well, I'm having a discussion with myself. Well, down here, I got it right. Okay, and I think we agree upon it. And we have to check in with the decision maker all the time. When we check in with the decision maker, they'll say, are you sure about that? where we'll ask the question, are you sure about that? Let's challenge each other. And that's often one of the salutary roles of having a consultation unit in any company. Um, uh, for example, I had a job at an engagement at Eli Lilly. I was amazed at that they had a decision analysis department. I was working at the National Institutes for Health. They have um, Office of Management Assessment, a group there. That's all they do is assess management decisions to see if we're on the right track, challenge them. They are not internal auditors. They're not inspectors general. They are management people from all over the organization who challenge and often reverse engineer models, often reverse engineer decisions to see the best way. That to me is a leading practice. Can't use the word best. A leading practice. That's the National Institutes of Health, and uh, their measure is not profit. Their measure is how many lives have we saved with our investment. Very different. Eli Lilly could do the same thing, uh, but they got this thing with stockholders and quarterly earnings. Yeah, right. But they're trying to save lives too. There's this Pfizer and Moderna and all the rest of them. Maybe. Yes, definitely. And here we have documentation on the right, again, showing where the formulas are, what the formulas are. We can read these formulas. What's in B12? What's in B13? Yeah, right. B12 and B13 could have names. That's pretty useful. We see that information comes into this weekly profit model from other places. Okay, very straightforward model. Most important one that's driving it, it's yellow coded. Yellow coded, remember use your memory now. We coded down in the lower corner here. Yeah, let's go back. There we go. There's pie prices coded yellow. Okay. And now I'm getting to code the technology that's inside of it. The technical requirements. There are demand technical requirements and there are production technical requirements. We're going to put those in green. They're going to be constraints for us. And in fact, these are all constraints. And profit in blue will vary when we vary the price. Okay. Lots of interesting things can happen now. We can begin to ask what if, and this is a weekly model. This has nothing to do with time yet. That'll be the next chapter, the next lecture. And of course, we're drawing the same curve. Ball goes up, ball goes down. The physicists tell us that's a quadratic curve. The real physicists tell us it's the tip of a big ellipse, think of football. A little bit different. Anyways, neither here nor there. I do that all the time. This uses data table. Very, very useful method. Uh, uh, very inexpensive method when you're prototyping. When you go beyond the prototype, you often have to write a little bit of Visual Basic for applications to automate a process. Often you have to do that. Not always, but it's pretty useful. We'll do that in the next round. But here's price sensitivity. If we don't get to this point, we haven't done even part of our job. Okay, we have to sensitize the decision and the outcome of the decision. Here we're calling that profit. We have to sensitize that relationship. And we have to graph it in a way that's useful for the decision maker, including we have to learn how to in Excel. Anywhere else this is easy to do. Use ggplot to v-line. Very simple thing to code in, get your vertical line. In R, Python, same thing. Go, same thing. Julia, same thing. Here, we want to show the decision maker the height. We want to draw the decision maker's attention to that vertical line, where it is on there, and have a discussion about it. More importantly, we want to see, does that line change? Does the blue line change? which is that profit line. This is in every economics textbook. But this is where it comes from, this kind of an analysis. Notice there's max, min, nodes, width in the middle. We're always going to do setups. We're not going to hard code wherever we can. The data tables are a problem in this regard. We're trying not to hard code what we're doing because the decision maker needs flexibility, and so do we. And the max and the min can be changed in order to zoom in or zoom out. Okay, larger range, shorter range. Suppose we just want to look between $8 and $10. We could say the max is 10, the min is 8. I love this one because it shows negative profit on both sides, which is an artifact of demand analysis. Sensitivity, exploring the trade-offs. Here we go. And back to the dashboard, which of course again has the ability of the decision maker and us advising the decision maker based upon all of the assumptions. One of the major assumptions of this model is that it's a model. It has structure. It avoids lots of other things. There's nothing environmental in here. There's nothing about people in here. Not really. Okay. Very hardcore, production oriented, very traditional, actually. We can, but once we have this skeleton, we can add more. As we ask more and different questions, we can ask more of the model. We can model more things. Okay. The point I want to get across here is this. This is just an insert. The plot actually has different things that we can change. We're calling it pie price. We're calling the y-axis profit. We're calling the title of this. We have a maximum number that gets plotted. Okay, these are not hard coded. They change. And somebody has control over this data stewardship, good information management. Somebody has control over this and can change it to whatever we need it to say. Now, this is very simple, but again, the modularity, the formatting, notice the formatting so we can easily see it. No hard coding. And we'll also use something called named ranges that we'll talk about in subsequent developments here. So what have we accomplished? Let's put a stake in it. We've modeled the decision from roots to leaves. And the whole point is we've used our 4-cause analysis, I think, to good effect. And we're going to continue to use it. And it's a way to be sure we're asking all the right questions. Always have to go there. And a map, visualize that analysis, in this case, with an influence diagram, arrows, directed acyclic causality is displayed there. And if we agree that one thing causes another, we now have an interpretation for all of the items, all of the coefficients on an interactive dashboard. We can talk in a very principled way to inform decisions. Now, we always check along the way. We have one slight change there, what causes what with cost and so on. And that allows us to modify. We're always adjusting, not just to expectations, but to answers from new questions. That becomes a component of objectivity. Not about us, not about the beautiful model we just built. We're going to crash and burn it, auger it into the earth, and see how it changes. That's what we're going to do. All right. And very important here, we're educating. It's nurture. Do not foist something on somebody. It's like negative reinforcement. Yeah, no corporeal punishment allowed here at all. Nurture, lead up to, prepare, deliver. We move from the merely how to the objectively what if in this way. The benefits of the classical education, yes. This is part of a tradition of analysis that we want to incite you with, nag you with. Yeah, you'll be nagged forever on this stuff. It'll just be back of your mind. And again, remember, this is only a beginning. It's not a base for decisions, just a principled way to inform decisions. And with that, I will leave you with all the stuff we just did. And all of this is in GitHub, WG Foot with an E is in the notes for YouTube. Informing decisions, and you can find these. The videos are already there. These presentation materials and models. Again, thank you very much for your kind attention. And with that, I will leave you. Take care till next time.